This is Donald Parham of the LA Chargers, and you're listening to Chargers Unleashed, part of the LA Network. Stay jiggy.
3, 2, 1.
This is Chargers Unleashed podcast. Here are your hosts, Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner.
Have a great day. Bye, guys.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, is being brought to you by UFC Fit in Temecula, Charger Bolt Family, Golden Road Brewery, and Tick Pick. If you are just following us for the first time, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We do Chargers content year-round. You can also give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can find us on Spotify and iTunes or wherever you choose to digest your weekly podcast. Dan Wolkenstein.
Buddy.
The tension is palpable. The cream has risen to the top, as they say. The pressure is on. One last game in the regular season to decide it all. Win or go home for the chance to be in the playoffs. Chargers versus Raiders. Sunday Night Football. Let's go.
Let's freaking go. Jake, I don't know what to do with my hands right now. I feel like I'm just not going to sleep for like 48 hours. Sunday is going to be an absolute shit show.
Saturday is going to be worse the night before. I know. Everybody, a lot of people have their problems with, even if it's a 10 o'clock game, some people have trouble going to sleep the night before because they're so nervous. But the build-up for this game, Dan, I don't blame you, man.
I'm okay. If I were to categorize before we get into like the breakdown of the Chargers versus the Raiders and all the numbers and offense versus defense, special teams, all that jazz, how would you give me some words to describe like your feelings about this game going into it? Like, what's your confidence level? Like, give us kind of like an insight into Jake's mindset going into this game.
Insight. I don't really have an elaborate insight mindset to this, Dan.
Are you confident? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you...
Here's what I'll say. And a lot of people may not want to hear this, but this game is going to be much different than the first time that the Chargers played the Raiders this year. And when I say that, I think it's going to be a much more tightly contested contest between these two. Both teams know what's on the line. The Raiders are a different Raiders team, whichever way you want to say that, whether it's offensively, defensively, good or bad. Defensively, they've tightened up the screws in 4 of their last 5 games.
Offensively, against some subpar competition.
Yes, offensively, they've changed. There's some weapons that they have, and possibly one big one that they're getting back that can exploit the Chargers defensively. Offensively, the Chargers should be able to go to work against this defense. But again, you're having a very highly motivated team. Playoffs are on the line. A lot of former Chargers are on that defense as well. So, it wasn't Rich Bisaccia's Raiders that was playing the Chargers earlier this season. It was John Gruden's Raiders. So you have to believe that he's going to do everything that he can to fix some of the issues that the Raiders were going through. The Chargers got fortunate. They didn't have to worry about the run game against the Raiders because the Chargers jumped out to a very early lead, and Josh Jacobs was also hobbling off of an ankle injury, so he wasn't 100% at that point in time. There's a lot of factors that are into this, but I think it's going to be a much more down, dirty, close contested type of a game to where it's really going to come down to obviously the fourth quarter and who's got the ball last type of scenario.
Okay, so we're going to get ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
But I'm like anxiously optimistic. I feel like would it be a good summary of how I'm feeling about this game?
Anxiously optimistic. Well, at least you're not overly optimistic. That's
better. I feel similar to this game as I do the Broncos game. In my opinion, The Chargers should beat the Raiders. I think majority of the teams, I think the Chargers are better than in terms of like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, all down the list. I think the Chargers check off more boxes than the Raiders do.
I'm waiting for the but here in a second.
How can I say this next part without saying the but? Damn it. But I'm just nervous, man. It's week 18. This is what all of us Chargers fans, the players, coaching staff, pundits, everyone had been waiting. And the narrative, I feel like, can shift so much because of one game. And honestly, somewhat unrightly so. I think I heard I think it was the Locked On Chargers guys. They did a great episode with Daniel Popper, by the way. If you guys have not heard that one, go check them out. They did great. There was one part where they asked him about whether or not the team's season would be a success if they lost on Sunday. And Pop had honestly, he had an answer that I thought was truthful. If you were the Chargers fans, what you were looking for, what I was looking for, is meaningful football in December and January. And that's what we have. Like, realistically, this is essentially like we're in the playoffs already. But I'm freaking nervous because I want to go to the damn playoffs and I want to beat the Raiders so bad because they're already chirping. They've been chirping since they got this as if like they're... Oh, okay. So, Jake, anxiously optimistic. If we're looking at the Chargers versus the Raiders when it comes to just like injury/COVID stuff, the Raiders certainly have like a much longer list of guys that are on the list.
As far as I know, I believe it's only one as of today.
Not on the COVID list, but like on the injury report. Like there's a whole bunch of guys that are on it. COVID, I think both teams are relatively like...
They're good. They're pretty good.
Good. So knock on wood, everything lasts between now. But like they got what, like 15 guys at least on their injury report. Now, a lot of them are full practices, so you can take those out. But Jonathan Hankins, their defensive tackle, did not practice. Deshaun Jackson did not practice.
I don't know what's up with that one because it's everything that it says on the injury report for him that I see was non-injury related to start the week. So I'm not sure if it's just they're giving him rest and they're expecting him to go come Sunday. I would assume that it would be something like that.
Yep. But then there's other guys. Denzel Perryman limited. Darren Waller limited. Like a lot of these guys I think are going to be playing. But in short, they are more dinged up than the Chargers are. Like the Chargers, realistically, the guys that may not be playing would be guys like Drew Tranquill. Would be guys like...
That looks about it right now.
I mean, Derwin's going to be playing. Linval, I would imagine, going to be playing. Yeah, Corey Linsley, I think they said he was already practicing, so he's probably going to be playing.
Yes.
Joe Gaziano,
the only one you might... That may be the only one you don't get. But other than that, that's one of the more healthier injury reports the Chargers have had all season.
And I think that's the part, as we go through this episode... I know I said I'm anxiously optimistic. We're going to get into the specifics here, but the Chargers, Jake, are more healthy now at the end of the season than I can remember being a Chargers fan.
It's true.
Even back to like 2018 when we went and beat the Ravens in overtime or beat the Ravens in the playoffs with Chen Nwosu. We had 0 linebackers for that game, basically. Like, this is the squad that we want to be playing in meaningful games. And you got to be optimistic and you got to be bullish when you see like the mic'd up Derwin James talking about like they're going to finish, they're going to be fighting for their coach. Like, if I'm being completely honest, Jake, I might eat crow for this, but screw it. In my opinion, Chargers are the better team. Chargers are on the come up. Raiders are a good story because they've had a cluster of an entire season. But the Chargers are the better team. I think if you pulled every team in the AFC and NFC playoff picture right now, they would far rather have the Raiders win because they have a better chance of beating them than the Chargers. So as we get into the outlook, Chargers should win. And unfortunately, those are the games that scare me the worst. Like, go back to Houston. That scarred everyone, right?
Our good friend Tyler Schoon, who proudly represents Guilty as Charged podcast, I think he put out a tweet. It was Tuesday afternoon. He said, if what happened in the Houston Texans game had not happened, if the Chargers went in there and handled their business, not only obviously would they have a much better playoff seed than what they currently are standing right now, but his confidence level going into this game against the Raiders would be so much different.
Fair
and
enough.
This just goes back to our gripes with this team that we have had through the second half of the season. When you look at the Houston game, when you look at the first matchup against Denver, when you look at the matchup against the Vikings, you just wonder yourself, which team are we going to see come out the gates?
And that's the thing, Jake, is for all intents and purposes, the Denver game was a playoff game for the Chargers. And like there were certain players that just would not let this game get away from them. Like Derwin James was everywhere. And there were a couple random, personal fouls and stuff, but like he was relentless. I think Joey Bosa, like that goal line stand that he had on the Philly special. Like there just were a few guys that were like, there's no way we're going to let this thing happen. And I think that's going to be something similar that you're going to see this week, but on both sides. I mean, if we're being honest, Derek Carr has been playing very good this year. Hunter Renfrow has been otherworldly the last month. On defense, like Denzel Perryman has had the best season of his career. Casey Hayward is playing great. Gus Bradley has got that defense playing very good recently. Again, caveat against really not good offenses. So I think it's going to be about which stars show up brightest. And in my opinion, I think the Chargers have far more of them that can show up. So Chargers offense, Raiders defense, Raiders offense, Chargers defense. Where do you want to start?
Pick and choose.
All right. Well, let's just go with fireworks first. Let's go Chargers offense, Raiders defense. Chargers offense, very familiar with this Gus Bradley defense. Really didn't have any problem with it earlier in the season. It should have been a lot worse than it was, but it ended up being, 28-14. The number I'm looking at, I saw this on NFL.com, is Justin Herbert's quarterback rating. If it is 100 or higher, I believe the team is 8-0 this season. If it is under 100, they are 1-7. So obviously, live and die by Justin Herbert.
Just tell you everything you need to know.
So I trust Justin Herbert to do his part. So on offense, I mean, we got everyone. Corey Linsley's back, most likely. Obviously, Rashawn Slater's good. Matt Filer's good. We got both Mike and Keenan. I'm really curious about Donald Parham. Have you heard if he's coming back?
No.
Austin
And I
Eckler,
don't expect him to. Nope.
Both tight ends are good. So our offense against their defense, especially their secondary, their corners are not good. They're just not. Like Brandon Faison, we cut. Roderick Teamer, we cut. I think is it Desmond Trufant? That's their other corner. Like
I'm not trying to give credit where it's not due, but do you know who leads the Raiders in passes defended this year?
Okay, but what is that saying?
It's Brandon Faison. It's not Casey Hayward. I'm just saying, it's just like, and like
because
you
no one
mentioned,
wants to throw to Casey Hayward.
And like I mentioned, as you said, Denzel Perryman is having one of his better years, and he actually leads the Raiders defense in tackles. Dan, look at the first meeting earlier this season. Who had the 2 sacks of the Raiders defense? It was Darius Philon. Remember Darius Philon when he used to be a Charger, for crying out loud? I mean,
Basically, it's the Chargers for the Chargers.
The former Chargers came to play, essentially.
Yep.
And they have continued to carry this team.
In my eyes, looking at this, I mean, I think mismatches across the board. Austin Eckler, I would love to see Denzel Perryman try to guard Austin Eckler outside anywhere. That's a mismatch. I think every receiver we have is a mismatch on them. Run game to the left side, I would say, is a mismatch. And the way Trey Pipkins is blocking, I'd say to the right side, run game is a mismatch. Justin Herbert is the best player on the field. Offensively, I'm feeling pretty confident. What say you?
Well, I'm interested to see how this game really plays out. You know that they're going to want to stay balanced. And if kind of the indication that we got over the last 2 weeks, especially after Justin Jackson really took off in the Houston game, you saw him getting a little bit more implemented against the Denver game. Austin Eckler looked like he was back to looking like Austin Eckler there for a while. But what I want to really see, Dan, and of course, it's very good news that Corey Linsley looks like he's trending towards playing this game, because as far as running the ball goes, the Chargers are a much different team. It's not a terrible drop off between Corey Linsley and Scott Quessenberry, but the run game looks drastically different in how they're able to hold off that interior penetration. Austin Eckler, the first game against the Raiders earlier this season, had a monster game, over 100 yards rushing. He had a touchdown. And I would like to see him get more implemented, but I would like to see him get implemented in the passing game a little bit more. Just a little bit more. In that first matchup, he had 3 catches for 28 yards. And it was also a passing touchdown. Like I said, a monster rushing game. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. So feed me more of that. Surprisingly enough, you were talking about Keenan Allen just a second ago, Dan. In the first matchup, Keenan Allen did not have one of his better games.
Nope.
7 receptions, yes, but for only 36 yards, Dan. It was Jared Cook's game in that first matchup, as you remember. He had the most yardage out of any receiver, 6 for 70, and a touchdown. So it was Jared Cook's game, believe it or not. Mike Williams had 1 reception in that game. I would highly believe that that's going to change come this week. So just go ahead.
I'm going to read off some numbers here for you, and you tell me if this scares you, okay? They've allowed the 9th most rushing touchdowns in the NFL.
Give up an average of 116 yards rushing per game, yes.
Yep. 21st in rushing yards allowed.
Mm-hmm.
19th in
we're no better. We're no better, so don't snicker.
No. But I'm just saying. 19th in passing touchdowns allowed. 32nd in interceptions. 31st in turnovers caused. 23rd in number of plays per drive, 25th in points per drive, 31st in turnover percentage of defense. We know what this defense, we saw it for 4 years. The defense doesn't scare me. It really doesn't.
All right. Well, I mean, look, I know
they've been good the last month, but against, to be honest, shit teams.
Okay, I understand the old adage of numbers don't lie. Okay. Now, to their credit, very end of the game, very impressive win by them to beat a very good Colts team.
That Colts game was no joke. Props to them.
Right.
Yes.
And since then, or before that, they had beaten the Broncos 17-13. The Browns, I can't remember if that was a game where Baker Mayfield was playing. No, that was when they had Nick Mullins playing in that game against Cleveland, and they won that one 16-14.
16-14.
Before that, that's obviously the game that all Raiders fans want to forget, and that was when they played the Chiefs when they lost 48-9.
By the way, 16-14 against that Browns defense. What do we put up? 40.
Well,
what?
Dan, that was a shootout. That was a shootout. That was a much different game. But needless to say, Dan, even in their loss, for example, that they lost to Washington 17-15, that defense, 4 out of their last 5 games that they've held their opponents to 20 points or more.
Against what teams?
I understand. So you held the Colts to 20 points. You held the Broncos to 13. The Browns are the third string quarterback to 14. And even though you lost to Washington, they still only put up 17 points against you. But that's just where I'm trying to get at here. So over the last month and a half, aside from their matchup against the Chiefs, defensively, they've done pretty well. Now, as you said, we know what this defense brings to the table because we're very familiar with Gus Bradley. We know what it is that he does. Likes to sit back in his zone defense for a majority of the game. Barely ever blitzes, but still that's not stopping guys like Max Crosby, who's leading their team with 10 sacks on the year. You saw what Darius Philon did with some interior penetration to us last time. I'm just saying, Dan, let's not forget when we played this team the first time around, remember what was on the line? It was first place in the division. Both of these teams at that point in time were 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So this was for control of the division essentially at that point of the time. So there was a lot on the line then, and of course there's even more on the line now. And I think just you do have to give credit to Rich Bisaccia. You can't overstate this because this is not John Gruden's Raiders anymore. And I think with everything that team has had to deal with, both on and off the field this season, he's done a good job of obviously getting him to this point and in a position to be in the playoffs.
The two guys that scare me on their defense, Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, those are the two guys. Combined, I think they have like almost 50 quarterback hits between the two of them. I think it's 49. One has 26, one has 23. Denzel Perriman scares me like in the run game for sure. He's been good, but like that's not really the Chargers' forte. That's not really what we're relying on. The rest of the guys, like they're kind of okay. Like they have a grand total of how many is this? 12 forced fumbles the entire season. And interceptions, they have a grand total of 5. 5. Like, and then switching over, because we're also talking about this Chargers offense. Here's some numbers for you, Jake. Chargers offense. Fourth in yards. 5th in pass attempts. 4th in passing yards. 4th in passing touchdowns. 6th in net yards per attempt. 5th in scoring percentage. 6th in starting field position. Thank you, Andre Roberts. Hallelujah. 2nd in plays per drive. 2nd in yards per drive. And 2nd in points per drive. In no world is the Raiders defense is the Raiders defense better than the Chargers offense. In no world. Would you agree? Max Crosby is no better than any defensive end Rashawn Slater's played all season.
Dan, we said the exact same thing against the Houston.
Yes, but nobody was playing in that game. We're waiting on you and me to try to block their scrubs. Like, that was different. What scares me as we flip to the other side, though, Jake, you probably would agree, Raiders offense versus Chargers defense. And, like, there isn't, like, a particular player. Maybe Bryan Edwards, just because he's a little speedy. Hold on. Is Darren Waller healthy? Is Darren Waller healthy?
It's trending towards that. He's been limited in practice all week thus far, but all indications are that Darren Waller is going to return this week.
Okay, so my quick lay of the land on this is Chargers finally have a healthy secondary. I think I saw a stat where they haven't played their starting 5. I think it's Mike Davis, Asante Samuel, Derwin James, Nazir Adderley, and Chris Harris. All 5 of those guys have not been healthy for a game since like week 6 or week 1, one of the two. They're finally healthy. Derwin James on Darren Waller, I'll take that all day long. We saw what Derwin James could do to Travis Kelce. That doesn't scare me. Hunter Renfrow, I honestly think Asante Samuel and Hunter Renfrow is a great matchup. Those two guys have very similar kind of cat-like instincts. They're quick. I like that. What scares me is, weirdly enough, is like the random ass chunk play to like the fullback or wide receiver 4 that goes for like 47 yards, or like the 50-yard pass interference call that goes against us.
Interesting.
If the Chargers can limit them to not no explosive, but like limit the 20 plus yards completions and limit like the stupid, like the Kelsey run for 50 yards. We saw Noah Fant do it last week for whatever it was 35 yards. If they can, they just need to have like a clean game. And I worry that this Raiders offense is going to make this kind of a sloppy game.
It is.
And that's what scares me.
They are. Dan, if you look at it, so let's talk about a couple things here. Getting Darren Waller back for the Raiders is humongous for them. That's a huge piece of their offense that they've been missing for a long time. And this was at a time, if you go back to the first game and you look at the 3 games that the Raiders had prior to their first matchup against the Chargers, they were actually putting up some decent points offensively. I mean, they were. It was, where was I at here? They put up, it was, so it was, they scored 27, or no, excuse me. It was 33 against the Ravens. It was 26 against the Steelers, and it was 31 against the Dolphins. That was just prior to them going against us. So, and at that point in time, everybody was saying, you have to take Darren Waller out of this game. You have to do it. And for a majority of the game, the Chargers did do that during the first matchup. I believe Darren Waller only had 5 catches for 50 yards, but he still ended up getting in the end zone. Hunter Renfrow, Dan, is the one that really worries me, because you talk about a guy that has really picked it up over probably the last 6 weeks, and he's going to eclipse 100 receptions on the season because he's at 99 currently right now. So he's become a huge focal point and virtually like the best friend of Darren Carr since Darren Waller's been out. But now to have those guys, and then let me tell you about the one thing I am a little bit scared of, and this is always one thing that has really affected the Chargers secondary, is speed. Dan, in this first matchup against the Raiders, when Henry Ruggs was there, didn't have a lot of receptions, but when he had the one big one, when he got his 3 receptions, he made him count. He went off for 60 yards. Now, he didn't get in the end zone or anything like that, but his receptions really counted. And so what's happened since obviously the incident with Henry Ruggs and him no longer being on the team? Well, the Raiders went out and they got Deshaun Jackson to supplant some of that speed. Now, has he been consistent? No, not necessarily. But that is a piece that I would think, based off of how they were using Henry Ruggs, that they would be using they would want to implement him in the same type of fashion. So don't get it twisted. And I haven't even brought up Josh Jacobs yet. Haven't even talked about it. He wasn't even 100% during that first matchup. And he's running better, not the best, but he's running better now. And Dan, yes, for what the Raiders are in run defense for themselves,
Chargers run defense sucks.
It's worse. Tell it like it is.
But
136 yards per game right now?
Hey, it's going in the right direction, right?
Well, it's better than 162, but yes. I get your point.
Look, like the Raiders offense, if we're being honest, is middle of the road. Is that fair? Would you agree?
Going off of what the stats say, yes.
Okay.
Yes. 21 points
now
per
let's
game,
give them like a little
4 yards passing per game.
Let's give them a tick up because of Darren Waller. I'll give you that. But I've said this all year, and I think this is why I'm like anxiously optimistic. I like our defense when healthy. And for the first time in God knows how long, the Chargers defense is healthy. Derwin James and Joey Bosa are both healthy. Like Nazir Adderley has become the Nazir Adderley we thought we were going to see. The Raiders offense does not scare me. Like this is just like the Broncos. Like, and I know this is. I don't even want to think about that.
You're putting it on yourself right now.
But like The Chargers lose this game if the Chargers beat themselves. And I know we have said that for freaking 20 years at this point. The Chargers should win this game. And Raiders will say, we have more heart. We have more resilience. We've gone through so much. Whatever. Like, I think we have the better team. I think we have the better quarterback. I think we have the better wide receivers. I think we have the better offensive line. I think defensive line, they may have a slight edge, maybe. Linebackers, I would say probably a wash, maybe us a little bit. Secondary, us for sure. Kick returner, us for sure. Special teams, maybe a wash. I think our kicker's better. Their punter might be better. Like, our coaching's better. Like, I know I'm Chargers homer on Twitter, but like, factually, it's all true. But I'm nervous because the damn last game of the season, and this is going to be like the Raiders are what's between most likely us and a rematch of the Kansas City Chiefs. And damn it, do I want to see that. And okay, Jake, one question for you. What would make you happier? The Chargers making it into the playoffs, or the fact that the Chargers would be bouncing the Raiders out of the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think the opponent has anything to do with it, Dion. At this point, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Whether it's the Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, it wouldn't matter to me. The mere fact is that you just need to figure out a way to get in the playoffs. I don't care who it's against, because I mean, Dan, in reality, it's win and get in, and what we've seen from this team in certain games during this year, we know what they can be when they're on, and especially for everybody frothing at the mouth to get maybe that's the better question, Dan.
Was my question bad?
No. It's not that it was. It's not that it was bad. If you told me what's the bigger thing that I would want to see, it's definitely the Chargers getting into the playoffs, but there's a little underlying reason below that, and that's solely for the reason to play the Chiefs for a third time. Because hungry. Everybody is frothing at the mouth. You've split games between them throughout the season. You know how that last game ended, and you just want another crack at it.
So kind of keys to the game here. I talked about, like, I think the importance we all know in Justin Herbert we trust, and we go as far as he's going to take us. Are you at all concerned about him kind of being too small for the moment? Like, with this being like the biggest moment of his career, and can he live up to expectations? Like, are you worried about that at all?
I don't think I'm worried about it, because we know what Justin Herbert has done in primetime, even when it's come to losses. Mm-hmm. You know, his worst game in a primetime scenario, a lot of quarterbacks would wish for on just a regular Sunday afternoon. But this is definitely the biggest game of Justin Herbert's career. There is obviously everything riding on the line, and in this type of scenario, he's been in these type of scenarios before. Obviously, nothing of this magnitude, but similar. You know, he's won in a Rose Bowl type of game with all eyes on him. He's had our games that he's done in prime time. He did it this year when first place was on the line against these Raiders. He had a very good game. And he's going to need to do the same thing, Dan. I mean, let's not forget, you went up 21 points on the Raiders and could have had more if it was not for a very smart play by Hunter Renfrow on making that great play on the fake punt that Ty Longs threw that unfortunately went incomplete. But you could have had more if you ended up winning that gamble. Unfortunately, you didn't. But you went up 21-0. You felt pretty good. And what you did in that circumstance was you took away the the ability for the Raiders to run a lot in that second half because they had to play catch up to try to get to us. So Justin Herbert needs to be magic. I think the defense needs to come out firing on all cylinders. Dan, remember when the season started? Remember when the season started and even you put out tweets saying you couldn't remember a Chargers defense looking this fast.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that hasn't really carried on consistently throughout the year. But in this first half, in this particular game, in this matchup against the Raiders, they looked like that. They were flying around the ball in that first half. You need to come out with the same type of mindset. And now you're coming out to it in a hostile environment. You know the Death Star is just going to be going berserk throughout the entirety of this game.
I also can't wait. There's a lot of Chargers fans going to this game. Like, I know this is a home game for the Raiders, but like we've seen,
it's going to be wild.
Like,
dude. It's going to be wild.
I mean, I was at the one in Cincy, and there was a ton of Chargers fans there. We all heard about the Chargers fans that were out in DC for that game. I've got a feeling that this is going to be more Chargers fans in a Raider game than I've seen in Vegas or Oakland in quite some time. Okay, then how about this question, Jake? I'm gonna allow you a pessimistic approach here. Okay.
Oh, fantastic! I've been waiting for it.
Chargers versus the Raiders. Raiders win. What is the path to success for a Raiders victory?
Oh man. Well, Derek Carr is going to have one of the better games that he's had all season. He was on fire really for himself in the beginning of the year. He really was putting up a lot of good points. He
had an MVP type start to the season.
He did. There were people that were talking about him on that. He's just behind currently right now in terms of overall passing yards in the season. He's just behind Justin Herbert by about 30 yards. So he's not far off. He had a great game against Dallas. That was a huge win for the Raiders in Thanksgiving, and he was a big part of that. So Derek Carr is going to have a fantastic game. If the Raiders are able to run the ball, obviously that's going to be a huge catalyst for that offense to be able to mix it up, especially with Darren Waller coming back and with Hunter Renfrow coming on the way that he is. It's just going to give another facet for the defense to worry about, make them a little bit more dangerous. So if they're able to tee off in the run game and Derek Carr is able to get in a rhythm, how about this, Dan? Remember what I was telling you last week is coming off the victory against Denver, defense did their job. They played okay, but I would have liked to seen some more consistent pressure because Jerry Tillery's got 2 sacks in 2 games, but I think that's it. I know that there's more than just sacking the quarterback, but pressure. In this first matchup against Derek Carr, you sacked him 4 times. You're going to need to have another type of similar defensive performance than that. Derwin James is going to have to go out there and play like his hair is on fire. Mike Davis can't be a liability. Give me that game that Mike Davis, what was it, against the Giants? That Mike Davis showed up? Give me that guy. That's the guy I want to see. That's the Mike Davis I want to see out there. Asante Samuel Jr. needs to get, I understand why, just given his recent concussion woes. I think he needs to get, be a little bit more in tune with tackling and coming up and hitting people. So the secondary really needs to play on point. Nasir Adderley has been fantastic. That is a game that I witnessed from him last week in Denver that I want to see that trend continue. So give me more of that. The secondary really needs to have a solid day for this game.
You know what it is I think the Chargers just need to be sound in this game. Like, I don't think the Chargers have to like blow the doors off of them and start bombing things away and going after like the home run stuff. Like, on offense maybe, but like on defense, if they can just be sound, I think the Chargers win this game somewhat easily. But that's what I'm concerned about.
play your style of football, which from what we've learned from Coach Staley is that he likes to keep everything balanced. I know that everybody wants to see the big long shot and the bomb from Justin Herbert. I don't really agree with many of the things that Colin Cowherd says, but one of the things that he does say about Justin Herbert, I actually believe is very true, is that he says Justin Herbert has a great arm, but he doesn't have to use it.
Correct.
That's absolutely true.
He used it once against the Broncos.
He's got a cannon. He's got an M80. He's got, I can't remember who said it, but that he could throw a strawberry through a battleship. He's got that capability, but he doesn't need to use it. He does not need to use it. But on the flip side of things, Dan, the Chargers can't have one of these type of games from their receivers like they did with the Chiefs or in other instances earlier in the season where the drops come into play. You can't have those little mistakes in this game. You have to capitalize on every opportunity possible.
Yep. All right. So keys to the game. So you said need to stop Josh Jacobs, obviously. Derek Carr needs to kind of be held under check. I gave the Justin Herbert over under 100 QBR or quarterback rating, wins and loss record. It's come time, Jake. We are now in week 18, and we have come to the final bold and game predictions for the regular season. This has been a doozy all year. Ups and downs, roller coasters. We've been right sometimes. We've been wrong a lot of times. I'm hoping that, I hope you're not staying on brand with your predictions here, but I'm going to give you the floor. Bold and game predictions for week 18. And you've got to give me bold and game predictions. You can't do any of this. I don't care. Just win. Let's put our money where our mouth is.
I'll give you the game predictions because honestly, I don't care how the Chargers scored. You just need to put points in the end zone at the end of the day. Okay. You get down there. If you have to settle for points, okay, you're going to take those points. You don't want a repeat of the Kansas City debacle, obviously, but I want to get 7. Now, I'll say this. As I spoke about at the beginning of this podcast, I expect this game to be very, very different than the first go around. First go around ended 28-14. Chargers ran away with it 21-0 went into halftime, but you only scored 7 points in that second half. I would have liked to see more. Now, this time around, Dan, I don't think the winner of this game is scoring above 20. Okay? I hate to say that, but
I don't like that. I don't like this.
But the Chargers, Dustin Hopkins makes a 35-yard field goal to send the Chargers to the playoffs 20-17.
Let's go, baby. Just Jake Hefner, week 18, has turned optimism into... What is this? I can't believe it.
What am I going to say? At this point in time, I'm going to predict that the Chargers are going to lose. I'm kind of backed into a corner here. Am I worried about this game? 100%. Do I think it's going to be a hell of a lot closer than what people are thinking? Yes, I do, because I think both of these teams are playing very differently. If the Chargers come out with the hinges greased and Lombardi calling a game like he called, against the Giants, or you look at the game, outside of them turning it over on downs, I thought he called a pretty damn good game against Kansas City too.
Yep.
If he can continue this trend of some of those positive games that he's called and puts the ball in Justin Herbert's hands, but you still keep things well balanced with the run game, you should be able to go against a Gus Bradley zone defense. No question. But Dan, as you said before, the playoffs start this Sunday.
Last Sunday.
And in the concept of the playoffs in general, whatever team you're talking about, you know that the playoffs are a different animal for everybody. Everybody comes out to play with something on the line when it's playoff time. So in a hostile environment, it's going to be a much closer game. I think both teams are going to play tough. whoever's going to be making the more mistakes is obviously going to be, to take a kind of a quote from Madden, well, whoever makes, the most mistakes, throughout the game is going to be the team that's ultimately going to lose. But yeah, you got to limit the mistakes, play clean football, your brand of football, and go to the playoffs, man.
Look, Chargers in almost every category have a top 3 efficiency in terms of offense all year. And going up against a Gus Bradley defense, going up against the Raiders, going up against the division rivalry, going up against all of the things that are happening with a healthy Derwin James, a motivated Joey Bosa, like Joey Bosa, Derek Carr, V2, like there's so many storylines in this game. I trust Brandon Staley, and I trust Justin Herbert, and I trust Derwin James, and I trust Joey Bosa. Like those are the 4 guys that I think will put this team on their back and find a way to make it happen. I think Justin Herbert balls out. I think Justin Herbert is about to show. I think he is about to scare the shit out of everyone in the AFC playoff picture. 31-20 Chargers.
31-20.
31-20, the Chargers. The Raiders' defense has been atrocious against any offense that's good. And the Chargers are among the best in the NFL. Yes, you can throw away a lot of statistics when it's playoff time. I get all that.
Pretty good game against the Colts last week.
Carson Wentz, really?
I'm just saying, Dan. I'm just saying. Against the team, throw out Carson Wentz, even take Jonathan Taylor, even though he ran over 100 yards, and you were still able to pull that one out. I'm just saying. Colts defense has got some playmakers.
The Chargers are going to do it, damn it. The Chargers are going to win this mother effing game. Chargers are winning 31-20. The Chargers are going to the playoffs. All the Raider fans who have been bitching all year about they've been smacking this and smacking that, and they've been all worried about the Chargers having no fans and all that, they're going to sit here and they're going to be crying all freaking morning on Monday because the Chargers are going to win 31-20. The Chargers are going to win, Jake.
I have officially pressed enough buttons to frustrate Dan Wolkenstein into madness. Dan Wolkenstein's having a rough day today.
I cannot
lost control 5 seconds ago.
I lost all of my ability to control emotions. Guys, this has been a great season. We're going to get into all kinds of stuff once playoff times come, whether we're in it or not. Jake has been chomping at the bit to get into all things draft, which I'm sure is hurting him a little that he has not been able to talk draft on this podcast.
On here.
Yes.
The work's being done behind the scenes, but yes, on Jake, here. I've been dying.
Rewind last year. It was like week 11. It was already like draft mode.
I mean, I was in draft mode, and then we had to go through your 4-game curse that you put on the team for them to win those last 4 games. So I couldn't talk about it as much as I wanted to, and now I've had to wait even longer.
Yeah, and you actually you got to talk about it in the negative way, because at first you're like, number 2 overall pick, number 3 overall pick. You're like, wait, 4, 7, 9, 11, 13. Damn it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But now, for the best possible reasons, I've had to hold off in talking about it on this show.
Yes. Okay, Jake, anything else you want to tell the good people before we all just do rain dances and cross fingers and do whatever superstitious things we need to do for this game Sunday night?
Do it. Do whatever you need to do on Saturday night to, superstitious, religious, seances, whatever you want.
We'll take it all.
I encourage it highly. Do it. And hopefully next Monday we'll be on here talking about a victory Monday and looking forward to the playoffs.
Jake, I'm so nervous. Okay, guys, for Jake Hefner, you can find him at Jake D. Hefner, myself at Chargers Homer. Again, be sure to subscribe, like us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, as well as subscribe on YouTube. We have some special things in store coming up, but for now, all eyes are in Sin City. I know a ton of you are going out to Vegas for this game. Be safe. Take care of each other. Have fun. be respectful, and get this Chargers team into the playoffs. It takes all of us our way. Bolt up. Chargers Unleashed. We are out until after Sunday night prime time. Jake, last question. If the Chargers win Sunday night, Jake will do blank.
I will go to bed. It's a Sunday night football game. I'll go to bed with a smile on my face. I'll keep it
Dude,
as
if
simple
the
as
Chargers win, I am not effing sleeping Sunday. There's no way. I will be watching every highlight imaginable for the next 7 days.
Granted, I got that, but I will go to bed with an ear-to-ear grin across my face.
Okay, one of us will sleep. Fine.
Yes.
Okay, guys, have some fun this weekend. Enjoy the Chargers-Raiders matchup. We have very important football in January, and that's all we can ask for. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you on the next Chargers Unleashed.